Today, House Democrats pass a bill to make Washington, D.C. the 51st state. The USPS is spying on you, and LeBron James is a giant idiot. We've got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I'm Sarah Gonzalez. Today joined by probably the world's biggest LeBron James hater himself, Stu Burguiere, also host of Stu Does America.
Just doing fair analysis on LeBron for many years, and I think my theories have proven out.
I think that you're right. Also joined by Pat Gray, host of Pat Gray Unleashed, also found on BlazeTV. Where do you stand on LeBron James?
I share Stu's
Okay, I thought that you might.
distaste for him.
You know, it's funny. I was like,
I didn't care.
Doesn't seem that horrible. I don't really have an opinion either way, but Stu won me over.
Thank you.
Yeah,
This is basically, between this and Colin Kaepernick, it's really my only role in life is to try to win people over to hating those two. So I think so far we're in a good place.
You're doing great.
Andrew Cuomo.
Andrew Cuomo.
You're doing great.
And you are wearing a Nancy Pelosi Sucks t-shirt right now, so I guess there's a few people in which I've done this to. But they all deserve it. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
So, all right, we will get into LeBron James, but let's first get into, I want to go over this. House Democrats, I know this was kind of breaking this afternoon. House Democrats passed a bill to make Washington, D.C. the 51st state. This was a 216 to 208 party line vote today. The bill obviously is going to be sent to the Senate. It's the second time that the House has approved this sort of legislation in 2 years. Obviously, it would be an uphill climb, but I think it's important to at least talk about, because it does kind of give you an overview of all of these things that the Democrats are pushing, that we said they would push, packing the courts, trying to make D.C. another state. I mean, it feels very much like all of these conspiracy theorists who said all of these things were kind of right.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to try to do them. Now, are they going to get these things through?
Right.
Probably not right now.
Not right now.
I know. I am with you. I don't. It's definitely possible. I think, given the right excuse, they would do it. You could make an argument, right, that people in Washington D.C. should be able to have senators, right? That argument, though, means you just put like Washington D.C. into Maryland and split Maryland into two states if you want to do that. There's no reason to make D.C. a state just to add two more senators. There's no reason to do it unless you just want two more senators that will vote your way. D.C. is a city. It's a city. It doesn't turn into a state. Like, this is not the Vatican.
It is the most like Washington, D.C. thing ever.
Yeah.
All of the elites who work there are like, no, we should totally be a state. We're that important.
I know. The most DC thing ever was the plan that was floated by a couple of liberals last year, I believe it was, where they wanted to divide DC into like 16 states and add 16 states and 32 new senators. Why not? Let's just do it block by block. Each one's a state. I mean, they have no reverence for any of our traditions or what the country, the fairness that was, supposedly implemented through the Constitution. They want to override it. And there are legal, as we pointed out many times, Roosevelt could have packed the court, right? There wasn't anything stopping him except just the fact that it's insane and it's a terrible idea. As Joe Biden pointed out helpfully back in the 90s, it's a boneheaded idea. So this is what the left will do. As of right now, they don't have 50 votes to do this, because really this whole conversation is about the filibuster. Yeah. And they have to get rid of that first before they can do any of this crap. As of right now, that's holding on, but just wait until that wrong moment occurs. Wait till that emergency happens, and Joe Manchin needs to tell you about, look, I wanted to hold the line on this, but I didn't know the Republicans would be this bad, and then it all falls apart.
Yeah, when you're waiting on your last hope is Joe Manchin, that's not a good position to be in.
You imagine if this was Texas instead, talking about dividing into 5 different states so that we could have 10 senators instead of 2. They would be going absolutely ape crap right now. They would be out of their minds, and they probably should be. But it is the one thing that everybody thinks Texas has a constitutional right to secede, but we don't. What we do have the right to do is to divide Texas into 5 different states. So if they declare D.C. a state, we should split it into 10 different senators and have a little more representation than we already do.
I like that. Yeah. You know what? I know someone who's running for governor. I should float that idea. I should float that idea past him because
see what he thinks.
But I mean, I think you were saying that tongue in cheek, but really, the Democrats have shown they will do anything. They will fight dirty. Anything. They will do anything to retain power. I think it's time that we start fighting fire with fire. And hey, okay, if you guys are going to do that, we're going to do it too. Is that just the devil on my shoulder is getting the most of me?
We both have the devil and the angel on the shoulder in this one because there are
constant.
And I don't think look, this would not be fighting fire with fire if they did it.
Right.
I think that this would be much more like equaling things out the way they're supposed to be, as opposed to fighting fire with fire. But look, I love this country. I love our traditions. I love our institutions. We've lost this sense. I think some conservatives have lost it, but everyone on the left has lost it. There's no more respect for that. There's no idea that those things are important and part of the reason we've been successful for 200 years. These rules staying in effect and people actually just objectively honoring them and respecting them. There's always going to be partisan pulling at those at the fringes there, but generally speaking, we've looked at ourselves and said, look, this is a really good country. It's got a great constitution. We've got all of these great things going for us. Let's just keep going, and we'll push and pull within that Overton window. Well, that just seems to be dead now, and there's very few people who care about those things anymore. There's no longer. The process doesn't matter. I mean, look, I've complained about this one before, because it's easy to give us 1,000 examples on the left. But Donald Trump banning bump stocks unilaterally is completely insane and against the Constitution. He should not have done it. And it's opening up possibilities for the left to do similar things, though they will do them anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, did he really need to open up anything? I mean, they were going to do it no matter what. They're going to do whatever they want to do no matter what.
They probably would. They couldn't have done it with a Republican president, though. I can tell you that. Now maybe Biden would have come in the first day and done it, but that can also be undone afterward. The point, though, is that the process matters there. It's not just a dumb little thing to figure out a way to get what you want. When you need 60 votes or 51 votes to get something through the Senate, the process, we can just add a bunch of senators because we really want it. That's not the way our country is operated. And to our benefit. It's the reason why we've been stable. We have the oldest constitution in the world for a reason, because we've actually respected it.
Mm-hmm. All right, I want to go to a story that you're probably not going to hear if you watch CNN, although if you watch CNN, you're probably not watching this program because you're way too smart to watch CNN. But the United States Postal Service has apparently been secretly collecting data on Americans' social media posts. This story is from Yahoo News. Apparently a March 16th government bulletin says that I had no idea that the USPS actually has a law enforcement arm. If that's not totally terrifying to anyone who has dealt with the USPS. They actually have a law enforcement arm, and they're tracking citizens' social media activity to gather data on a host of topics, including inflammatory postings and planned protests. This is a program called ICOP, which stands for Internet Covert Operations Program. So the USPS is spying on all of us. How does that happen?
This is a great argument to keep governments smaller.
Yeah, I mean, if they're doing it, every agency across the board is definitely doing it.
And given the excuse, any agency that exists will use that excuse to do this. It's bizarrely out of the frame of what they should be doing. I mean, to the point of if you told me Arby's would be doing that, I would be less surprised.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's just this very strange thing. But I mean, again,
I need them to focus on just getting my package
arriving.
Get the packages there. At all. I was going to say on time, but just at all.
I know, and not losing multiple billions of dollars every year.
Right.
I know they've been trying to, because the guy Trump put in is still in, right? He's still technically there. I think so, yeah. I think because his term. I don't follow the Postal Service stuff all that closely.
What?
I know. But he was trying to professionalize it to a point where at least it could come close to breaking even from year to year. Well, no wonder they can't break even. They're freaking spying on everybody. It's hard to deliver packages and spy on people for that same amount of money.
Yeah. Pat, our civil liberty experts are a little bit concerned about this surveillance. Do you share their concerns?
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
I mean, if the post office is doing this, what is the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the NCAA? What are they doing to us right now? I mean, can you imagine what the NCAA is doing behind closed doors? I can't even begin to imagine. Now, it's pretty frightening. And what's great is that they also have the help of these huge corporations like Google and Apple to help them with their work, because I'm sure the government just asks and Google offers it up. I mean, you never hear of Google fighting any sort of request from the government. They just turn over information. So yeah, there's a lot of spying going on, and the spying that we know about is alarming. So how much more alarming is the spying we don't know about?
And it's hard to trust that, I know a lot of people talk a lot about some sort of Congress doing something, the government doing something about big tech. But it's like, I don't know that any of their actions on big tech spying on us is going to be anything we want in our lives right at this point with the people who are in office right now.
You're preaching directly to me, aren't you?
Yeah.
I am totally with you on this. I mean, I'm as concerned, I think, as a lot of people are on big tech and all these other things. But like, man, I don't want the government doing it. Like, we're in a tough situation here because both options are terrible, right? Yeah. That's what it seems like. I mean, we look at this and we say, well, we want freedom of speech, right? We want the ability to be able to post all these things. We don't want big tech cracking down and spying on us and all of these things. And then you step back and you're like, okay, well, if our argument is, well, we should have a law passed so that they can't do that, there might be some good things from that. But my guess is conservatives end up on the wrong side of that one after a while. It usually is the way that it happens. And no matter what happens, we're not going to like the lines they draw for us. Mm-hmm. So it is a real struggle. And it's a tough one. It's another devil on the shoulder and angel on the shoulder type of situation because I think I keep coming back to the same thing, is that the less power that government has, the better off we're going to be. And so passing laws and giving more power to the government, like spying through the post office, usually seems to turn out bad. I mean, I remember when Keith Olbermann was back in the George Bush era, and he did this big expose about this room. It was like a little closet and had all these servers that were collecting information. And I remember being like, come, this doofus, I mean, he found a picture of a closet.
That was a fair assessment. Still.
Yes, it still applies to him. He's an idiot. But I mean, look, that kind of stuff was happening. We now know. I have to give some credit there. I mean, I don't know if he actually found the right closet. He just had a picture of a closet, and he was like saying, this is a closet where all the stuff's going. Maybe it was that closet. I don't know. But like, that stuff really was going on. We found out a lot about it later on, and we were kind of set back to say, well, I hope they use that legally. Mm-hmm. And we found, as we saw during the Trump administration, how often that actually occurs. They don't use it very legally all that often, it seems, and they barely ever get anything rejected when they go after it. So, the answer here is not to try to apply your version of the right type of government oversight and control. It's to minimize that government control. And if we can do that, then at least we have a chance to fight against it.
Yeah. And I hope people realize by now that the old expression, well, I don't care if they're spying on me, I'm not doing anything wrong. You're not the one who decides if what you're doing is wrong. That's done by the government and other entities. So people should be alarmed by this, and we need to stand up against it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? To your point, there was a police officer and a paramedic, I think, who donated to Kyle Rittenhouse.
$10.
Fired, right?
Did he get fired?
I thought I read he got fired.
Unbelievable, because I know they ran a news report and they sent the guy out to the house. Say, sir, did you donate $10 to this guy who was blatantly defending himself? And that's so. Think about the government with that power, and we don't have to think about it. Go back to the time when we had a much more. You go back 50 years and you have a crazier. You have Hoover. You have crazy things going on. against quote-unquote enemies of the state. People even like Martin Luther King were suffering under this. It's so funny because the left used to really understand this because they were the victims of it in the 50s, in the 60s, and they really pushed back against it for a long time. They've totally lost that instinct. That's one of the few things that is an instinct of the left that you'd want to keep, which is an instinct of being skeptical of letting government have access to that information on regular citizens, because even when they haven't done anything wrong, they've done something wrong.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, Stu. They have kept the idea that you can abort your baby up to the point of birth.
Good.
So it's good that they're keeping the good morals there. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, iTarget Pro. So in 2020, over 8 million guns were sold. That combined with the efforts to defund the police, and then of course you've got rising crime because you're letting all of the inmates out of the jails because of COVID-19. That has driven the cost of ammo through the roof. I don't know if any of you have gone to try to buy ammo right now. It's impossible to find. All right, a lot of Americans have just stopped training with their guns because it's too expensive. You can't find the ammo. It's just too much of a pain. But that is why iTarget Pro was invented. It is to give law-abiding citizens a cost-effective way to train in the safety and privacy of their own home. So you don't have to go to the range. You don't have to find the ammunition that is out of stock right now. All you have to do is download iTarget's app. You load the laser bullet that they have, and they have them for all different calibers, into your firearm, and you can start training at home. Now, dry fire training is going to help you develop muscle memory, sharpen your target reaction speed, sight alignment, trigger function, and much, much more. I have it. I know the guys have it. We actually made it into a game at our house. It was the first time that my son was able to really feel a weapon, hold a weapon, dry fire with a weapon. It's really great if you want to educate children on guns as well. Any of you out there are looking to do that today, you can save 10% and get free shipping with the offer code NEWS if you go to itargetpro.com. The greatest thing about this is that it is going to pay for itself in one trip that you would spend at the range with all the range fees and the ammunition. It will pay for itself. itargetpro.com, promo code NEWS. We talked yesterday about Ma'Khia Bryant, who was the girl who was shot by the police in Columbus, Ohio, after she was, actively trying to stab another girl in an altercation. And I think that, it's interesting because the conversation that we had yesterday with Jason Buttrell and Eric July was that no one was really talking about the girl who was about to be stabbed. The media wasn't asking her for her comment, how she felt. It was all just a bunch of activists and how they felt about the matter. Really, by the way, with no context brought into the situation. I know there were a lot of people who didn't even realize that there was a knife involved in the incident and that someone was about to get stabbed. But I think it's important when we're talking about this to play the victim who was about to get stabbed and let her speak for herself. Listen.
Shoot a girl and she ain't come at you with no life. She came at me. She came out with a knife earlier?
No, she just, that's what the police did.
That lady on the floor?
She came after me.
With a knife?
Yeah, so he got her.
Seems almost like it's as straightforward as we all said that it was. Could not be more clear-cut and straightforward to me. It's interesting because I saw some conservatives even saying, well, we have to wait for all of the details to shake out. And I'm like, I don't think we need to know why there was an altercation, why the girls were there, what led to it. It really doesn't matter when it comes down to what happened when the police officers came on scene. Right. Why the police officer shot has nothing to do with any of those things. He doesn't know what age they are. He doesn't know why they're fighting. All they know is that they arrive on scene and ask them to stop, and she doesn't stop and is about to stab someone.
Yeah, there
seems like that's all the context you need for this one.
I generally agree with you. I always want to wait and know what all the details are. I don't think it affects the cop at all because
but that's what I mean.
You're right.
For whether or not it's a clean shoot, whether or not you can accuse him of racism.
Yeah, we don't know all the details of the situation, but we do know what the cop saw. because we saw 100% of what he knew in the situation. So I think, to me, that is more than enough to say that that was a justifiable shot. We don't know the situation. Like, for example, like maybe the girl in pink tried to stab the other girl a little earlier, and that's why she was so pissed off and acting that way. That doesn't mean that it's okay or that she should have done it, but it might make the situation a little bit more understandable because...
But not for the cop.
But not for the cop.
Right.
It doesn't change what the cop, what happened with the cop. You know, it's interesting. They say that not only did Ma'Khia Bryant try to stab the girl in pink, but also the girl that fell on the ground, she tried to stab. And so we also see, as I think you pointed out off the air, and I noticed last night that no one had really commented on, is that there seems to be an adult male kicking the girl who's sitting on the ground in the head or the face, which is a very bizarre part of this, which makes you wonder what the hell was going on inside that would lead him to think that was an okay thing to do in front of a police officer. But that is all a sideline of the actual question here, which is, was it a racist shooting? Was it an improper shooting? No. And no. Number one, we know it wasn't racist. He saved a black woman from being stabbed. So we're pretty sure it was not racist. And there was a knife being wielded. We showed it on, frame by frame last night. You can see her bring the knife down low, then bring it up high in striking position. She starts to move forward, and he actually waits. I mean, it's very Jack Bauer-ish in a lot of ways. He waits to the last second. He takes a very tight shot with a lot of people around. If you watch the video back, one thing you'll notice is there's a little tiny doggy sitting right at the pink girl's feet the entire time, to the point of the interaction happens, she tries to stab him, she gets shot, fall down, they both split, and the dog's just still sitting there, just hanging out. It's incredible.
Wow.
And then the dog kind of scampers away. Wow. But yeah, I mean, it was a crazy, chaotic situation. He had no time to prepare for it, and in 15 seconds does exactly the right thing. And then LeBron James, I know we'll get into that later, tweets to 50 million people that he's next. It's just insanity. If you can't admit that this was a justified shooting, your commentary is worthless.
Well, and let me get into that, Pat, because you know what? I don't even think we need to play this clip. Let me just tell you, NBC really, really deceptively edited the 911 call on their broadcast. So if you're watching, again, these people are watching NBC. These people are watching these programs they want to control the narrative. So they are deceptively editing these to try to make you think, oh, wait, this girl wasn't holding a knife. So, if you listen to some broadcasts, you heard the 911 call, which the girl can be heard saying, these grown girls over here trying to fight us, trying to stab us. But when NBC News reported it, they just played the clip of the 911 call that said, we need a police officer here now.
Well, yeah, because they have to deify the victim in every case.
Yeah.
In every case, the victim becomes a hero somehow, no matter what they've been doing. They could be a lifelong criminal. They could have a criminal record longer than our arms, and it doesn't matter. They're all of a sudden sacred martyrs who died for the cause. Well, that's not what's going on here. I mean, it's really sad that a 16-year-old girl lost her life.
Right.
But the 16-year-old girl was trying to take the life of somebody else.
Yeah.
So they ignore that narrative every single time. It's never a justification for a cop to shoot somebody, even when it's completely justified.
Well, a white cop.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the LeBron James aspect of this, because LeBron James, he tweeted and then quickly deleted his tweet. He wrote, "You're next," with a picture of the officer who shot and killed Ma'Khia Bryant, who we just discussed. He said, "You're next, #accountability." So then he deleted it and said, I don't want to, what did he say? I don't want to be part of the anger. What did he say? Anger does any of us any good. That's what he said. Anger does any of us any good.
As LeBron always does with his
anger. I had someone turn it into a motivational poster too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just says, "Anger does any of us any good."
He's an idiot. I don't know if people know this. He's a moron and should not talk about any of these things. Not because he's not allowed to with his First Amendment rights. He is. He's just dumb. And so it's hard for him to say things that make any sense. He has he's pre-made all of his opinions, and he's basically a constant outrage machine over whatever issue he sees on Twitter, which he then takes the full sentence of and breaks it up into segments of sentences that don't necessarily intersect the correct way. But that being said, this is putting someone's life on the line. I mean, he's doing something here, which he knows what he's doing. He's really dumb on a lot of things, but he knows what he's doing here. And look, a lot of people follow his lead. And unlike the people in the crowd who will say the same thing as him, you don't want to be as dumb as LeBron. You can be. If you say the things that LeBron says, you will be as dumb as LeBron, but no one's going to pay you to commit offensive fouls that they won't call for 15 years. So you're not going to have the money he has. You're just going to be an idiot.
Pat, here was his tweet afterwards. I'm so damn tired of seeing black people killed by police. I took the tweet down because it's being used to create more hate. This isn't about one officer. It's about the entire system. And they always use our words to create more racism. I don't know how you use words to create more racism.
Stupid.
I am so desperate for more accountability. More accountability.
Leave us alone. He is Al Sharpton now.
Yeah.
Al Sharpton, if Al Sharpton could dunk a basketball, that's about what LeBron James is. He comes in and he inflames every situation. And he doesn't know what he's talking about. And he acts like he has all the information and we're all idiots.
Yeah. By the way, he also acts like the police officer didn't just save a black woman's life.
No one cares about her.
Nobody cares about that.
Just like they didn't care about the woman that, was it Jacob Blake, was sexually assaulting in Wisconsin. They didn't care about her because she didn't help their narrative. They didn't care about that black life who was in bed being sexually assaulted in the middle of the night multiple times, who have called police, who had her car stolen, who had her bank accounts cleared out.
Yeah.
They didn't care about her at all because it didn't help their narrative. And that's what shows. I mean, it's so blatantly clear. If they wanted to show police shootings as a big news story, they could do it, and they could show, if they were doing it fairly, they would show twice as many happening to white people than they do to black people. Is that real? Is that happening? We played. I'm gonna play a clip on the show tonight of Family Guy. Did you guys see this clip yet? From 2015, where there's a talk about a shooting, and Cleveland, who's the black character on the show, admits that he was the one who shot his son, another black person, and he tells this to the media. And in the middle of his speech, they turn around and all the media's gone because they only cared when it was Peter, the white guy, who actually committed the murder. They're all gone. And he even says, you want the media to leave in a hurry, mention black on black crime. And it's true. They're just gone. They don't care. And look, race should not play as an issue with this. You want to show, a fair standard here is, if you really think there's an unfair killing, you could show it no matter what the race is. And also, if you think there is a terrible, if there's a terrible incident involving the police where they're the victim, show that too. That's fair coverage. They are not interested in that.
And they're not interested in the least in a really tragic shooting involving a little girl. A 7-year-old black girl killed for no reason whatsoever at a McDonald's drive-thru this week.
In a drive-by shooting.
They don't mention it at all.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the
And
narrative.
it's despicable.
Wow.
They don't care about any of that, and it happens every day. You know that they keep saying that there were 54 mass shootings in March or whatever.
That's ridiculous.
Maybe if you include all the Chicago killings, maybe. I mean, but those aren't the kind they're talking about. They just try to use those to show that Whitey is killing people, multiple people all the time.
I'll say it's a miracle that a piece of fabric from his uniform didn't cover that camera at that exact time when you can see the knife. Because I'll be honest with you, you only see it for a few frames.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that there would be all sorts of witnesses saying it was there, every single person in the media would say it was a lie and it was planted.
Yeah.
They would
they're
all
already
do it.
trying to say that, even though we
have it on camera.
Have it on
Thank
tape.
God, this guy would be toast if that terrible pixelated camera did not pick that up for a couple of frames.
Yeah. Well, just remember, guys, anger does any of us any good.
That's beautifully put. Beautifully put.
That was
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. All right,
Think
we
about
got
that for a
to
minute.
thank our sponsor, Built Bar, really quickly. So if you have not heard us talk about Built Bar, you have to try it. It is an amazing protein bar, but it's healthier and tastes way better than whatever protein bar that you're eating. If you're not eating Built Bar, you're eating and it tastes like cardboard or something. All right. You got to try Built Bar. By the way, they just had one of their flavors win this award in a taste test. It was the coconut brownie chunk, which I remember I sat here and Glenn Beck was here and I was like, Glenn, have you tried the coconut brownie chunk? And he said, no. I said, oh my gosh, they just sent a shipment. You have to try them. And then I heard him on the radio the next day say, oh my gosh, Sarah told me to try them and they're amazing. They really are. It tastes like a candy bar. You're going to think that you're eating something that is really, really bad for you, but you're not. It's actually really good for you. Low in calories, low in carbs, high in protein and fiber. You got to try them. Go to builtbar.com. That is BUILT bar.com. Use promo code NEWS15. You'll save 15% on your order. That is only at builtbar.com. All right, the Washington State Department of Health is letting their vaccine providers deny vaccines to white people.
Yeah, finally!
Yeah, so if you live in Washington State and you happen to be white, and you're waiting for your vaccine, you may not want to go to get yours by at least one of the vaccine providers, who is AARTH, which stands for African American Reach and Teach Health Ministry. You can, of course, sign up eligible recipients, who I think is everyone, all adults by now, right?
I think everyone's 16 plus around the country is eligible.
So
now.
You can sign up for the vaccines using their online scheduler, and you have to actually write whether you are white or non-white. Now, if you are non-white, they give you like a list of times that you can schedule, and if you are white, you have to actually get on a standby list. But that's not actually the only, it's not the first standby list, because they also have a people of color standby list first, a waiting list for them first, and then they get to the white people. So it's really good that we're listening to Martin Luther King, and we've really desegregated everything. We're judging people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. And, I just think we're doing really well as a country.
Well, I believe it was the civil rights activist George Wallace who said, segregation now, segregation forever. And that's what, of course, we've all been working for this entire time.
Right.
Finally, we're getting
Great
it
job,
back.
guys.
Thank you.
Great
Good job, everybody. Good job, America. I mean, I don't know how this is
incredible,
legal.
right? It can't be.
How can it be legal? How
It
can
can't
it be?
be.
Especially when it's a state, or it's a a government program,
Yes.
essentially,
Yeah.
right? Where the government, the taxpayers have paid for all this vaccine.
Can I tell you what they said?
Yeah.
So the Washington Department of Health is actually arguing that it's about equity. So they said that, here it is, the prioritization is designed to address current inequities and barriers to accessing the vaccine and get people who are at highest risk vaccinated first.
I mean, this is, look,
Everything is about health. It's health equity now, which means
equity is a totally different
you
thing
guys get
than
screwed.
Equality, right? And there's been a long-term thing since this all began that African Americans are less likely to get vaccinated because the idea is that there's been some bad things in history with the government and different medical experiments, and they're just generally more skeptical of vaccines than other populations. But if you just keep it available to them, they can come whenever they want. You don't need to depress white people who want to get it to not get it, right? You don't need to stop them from getting it to show that black people can also get it. They should also be able to get it. There should not be priority.
But the people who have died from COVID-19 should be equal throughout all races.
That is seemingly what they're targeting here, because they'll say African Americans are a higher population, and this has nothing to do with their skin color.
No.
But African Americans, a higher population, live in cities, and that's where it all comes from, right? So you live in cities more. You're going to be around in a more dense area, so you're more likely to catch COVID. You're probably going to be on mass transportation, more likely to do that. You're more likely to catch COVID. They statistically are more likely to be in these jobs, that didn't stop. They're not as much Huffington Post bloggers that can just sit on their couch with their laptops. They're out there actually doing things, and they didn't stop working throughout the pandemic, so they were more likely to get COVID. They might not have some of the same healthcare services and stuff. That could be part of this, but that does not mean that you.
I think there are white people who have to face those challenges as well.
Exactly, they do. And this is the larger point here, which is never ever in your entire life one time make any decision based on skin color, period. Like if you could just kind of keep that as a general.
So, wait, you're saying don't make any one decision based on that, but make all of your decisions based on that.
No decisions. At the end of your life, you could be like, you know what? Never made a decision based on skin color. Pretty proud of that. You should be happy with yourself. That's a really good goal to go after. And yet we're going the opposite way. I mean, we joke about Wallace and Martin Luther King. We've reversed those two. But it's like in reality, we are legitimately going back to that system.
Yes.
We are going to a system that puts a giant smile on the face of Richard Spencer, right? Who thinks about race just as often. The only thing is he wants a different race on top. And he will fight and he'll say, I want white people to have the upper hand. And then I guess everyone else is going to say they want other people to have the other hand. And we're all going to fight about who gets the upper hand based on skin color. That's a dumb argument to have because number one, there's never a winner. And number two, it's against everything that our country is supposed to stand for. Like we all look back at the era where we made decisions based on skin color and abhor it. Why do we want to go back to it? It makes no sense.
Being colorblind is actually considered racism now.
Yeah.
They specifically say colorblindness is racist. Oh my gosh, it's
incredible.
It's unbelievable. And you talk about systemic racism, that's going on in Washington right now, just against white people, but that's okay. We can discriminate against white people. It serves them right because I guess it's payback time.
Yeah.
And it's despicable what's going on. Biden talks about the systemic racism. This is a guy who went to Robert KKK Byrd's funeral and said that he was his mentor and friend. Can you imagine if Donald Trump went anywhere and said anything nice about David Duke? Yeah, David Duke was my mentor and friend. He was a member of the KKK for a while, but he said some pretty good things later on in life. So I really like him.
He condemned white supremacists like a million times, and he was still called a white supremacist. So no, I cannot imagine if he actually said something like that.
But this kind of stuff is frightening.
Yeah.
Because it's just been flipped now, and I guess that's okay. We get to experience it.
All right. We've got more to come, but we got to take a break. Back in a minute. It is really incredible. Happy Earth Day, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I know you guys are
Love the Earth
Day fanatics.
Yay.
Yes. Happy Earth Day. Also, Happy Earth Day from John Kerry, who was at the Leaders Climate Summit and gave us this little gem of a clip. Watch.
Get off to such a great, quick start. You said twice getting to net zero is going to be hard, really hard. And just remind everybody that will depend on whether or not we have some breakthrough technologies and breakthrough innovations, number one. But even if we get to net zero, we still have to get carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So this is a bigger challenge than a lot of people have sort of really grabbed onto yet.
So everybody stop breathing. Plants, you're screwed because you don't get to survive. And I guess that's a Happy Earth Day to the plants, I guess.
Is he actually proposing to get all of the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere? I got to say yes, because he's John Kerry.
I think yes. Well, he just mentioned net zero, too.
Yeah.
So he was like, speaking of net zero, we really have to get rid of the carbon dioxide.
That's a bad idea.
Do you think?
We may need it for certain purposes, and I'll talk to John about that offline.
Climate czar, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I have Bjorn Lomborg on today. He wrote a great book called False Alarm, which is all about all the crazy claims from environmentalists and how to actually put all this stuff in perspective. And I was talking to him tonight, and he goes into all of the how could you actually do the things that they're saying. Net zero is crazy, but like Biden wants 50% reduction in CO2 by 2030, and like what does that mean exactly? Well, let's say you were to take every car off the road, and all trains, and all planes, and all buses, and all tractors, and all trucks. That would save you about 20%. So you still got 30% to go if you eliminate the transportation sector completely. Wow. Going to be really hard to do that, because even if you go all the way to all zero emission vehicles with like electric cars and stuff, they all take tons of CO2 to produce. Yeah. So it takes 40, 50, 60,000 miles before that even equals out. It's really insane.
Which is why you have to believe, instead of saying this, you have to believe that like he's just saying this to satisfy all of the fanatics, knowing that that's not an actual thing that he can do, right?
Yeah, I guess. He went on to say in the same rant that the United States could lower our emissions to zero and you'll still have the problem. United States and China could lower all our emissions to zero. You'll still have the problem. Well, wait a minute. What? What? So, what are we doing? Why are we doing it then?
Yeah. Let's just make the best out of the world we have instead of this fake one that you're trying to create, right? I mean, again, that 20% of American emissions from the entire transportation sector works out to like less than 4% globally. So if you were to, you don't do it by country, right? It would mean nothing, and it's a completely unreachable goal. The only way you could even do something like this, right, would be for some massive government policy that made all these things illegal, which we definitely know are not going to happen, let's say, for sure in the next 2 years, right? Yeah. We know the Republicans won't let that happen, at least for the next couple of years, and probably for the next 4. At what point does this even begin? This also includes taking off the table the one way you might be able to do it, which is nuclear power, right? You were not allowed to do that. If the Democrats really cared about this problem in a serious way, they could say aggressively, let's pursue new generation nuclear technology.
Yeah.
Because Republicans would be like, yeah, we've been asking for this for a while. Yeah. You have zero emissions. You could really make a dent in this, even though it still wouldn't, I don't think, solve the problem, but you'd go a long way to make it much more than you would do by just haranguing people to turn off their freaking toaster ovens. And, but they don't care. They really don't care about this problem at all. It's all about control.
Yeah. Pat, did you see the clip of AOC when she said that racial injustice is climate change?
Yes.
And basically everything is climate change.
There was another brilliant observation on her part.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Full of them. She's done so much good work.
Do we have time for it? Okay, great. Let's play it.
The climate crisis is a crisis born of injustice, and it is a crisis born of the pursuit of profit at any and all human and ecological costs. Which means that we must recognize in legislation that the trampling of indigenous rights is a cause of climate change.
Yeah, of course, everything
The trampling of racial justice is a cause of climate change, because we are allowing people and we are allowing ourselves to make sure, we are allowing folks to deny ourselves human rights and deny people the right to health care, the right to housing and education.
Do you remember when Miss South Carolina was asked about maps? That was a more intelligent answer than we just heard from AOC.
That's such a good analogy.
The Iraq.
And
everywhere like such as.
And the Asian countries and everywhere like such as.
I will say I was a little disappointed, and I'll just be honest with you, Sarah in particular. I watched that clip and I thought, I need to go to Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered and see what the parody of her doing this clip is, and it wasn't there.
I know.
What is happening? I have to see it. It has to happen.
I had a baby. That's what happened.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good excuse.
Taking up all my time. I know. I saw it, and I was listening to it, and I heard you doing it just now, but it's like nails on a chalkboard with this particular clip for some reason. Her voice is just the worst.
It's that peak irritation.
Yes, I know. I really need to figure out some time and get something up there. All right, we got to take a break. Back in a minute.
Everything like such as is climate change and infrastructure.
And some U.S. Americans don't.
All right, don't forget to go to wherever you get your podcasts, which, by the way, I heard that Apple Podcasts is down today, or has been down.
Oh, no, really?
So, yeah, so go to theblaze.com today, anyway, and there is a link to make sure to get all of your podcasts, all of your Blaze Radio, Blaze TV podcasts. But we've got some reviews today from, let's see, who is this from? Kin Man Jr. Okay, the news in Why It Matters is incredibly entertaining and informative. 4 days a week, then on the 5th day, it is transcendent. That's when two-time Hot Mom of the Year, oh my gosh, Sergo welcomes Stu the Vegan Lincoln, emancipating us from fake news. and Pat the Stormin' Mormon Cray from the mean streets of Helena.
It's Helena.
Sorry, everyone needs what this show delivers. Praise God and pass the ammunition. Amen.
That's a review of the year right there. I give the review 5 stars. That's a fantastic one.
I mean, there's not a better sell than that review right there. All right, let's see. Here's another one. The Sarah Gonzalez Show fixed it for you. Who is this from? I'm sorry, I can't read. Casey IT guy, thank you. I love that this show is both informative and entertaining. The rotating panel of Blaze contributors and guests keep the conversation lively. However, they should just change the name and give the leading lady her due credit. That's nice. Thank you, Sarah. P.S. Built Bar.
P.S. Built Bar.
P.S. Built Bar. That's all you needed to say. The reviews are like filled with Built Bar reviews. Glad you're liking it, by the way. BuiltBar.com. Thanks, guys.
Is Built Bar infrastructure?